Hey, what's up? Modern philosopher here again today, and I'm talking about Freudian uh, relations to um, morals and ethics, and I'm also going to tie it into next week's topic about community versus self. Um, so, Freud was most notable for his psychoanalysis. And he talked a lot about the subconscious. And the two major principles that he had were the pleasure principle and the reality principle. So the pleasure is basically everything that our mind wants to do, and then the reality principle is basically all the stipulations that society sets on us. So that's how it ties into community versus self. The reality principle is the morals and ethics that our society has set on us, uh, and we have given into those to reap the benefits of the society. And in turn, we have to give up some of the more pleasurable parts of the individual experience, which are part of the pleasure principle. Um, And so you have neuroses, and neuroses are when you actually suppress the pleasure principle. And this all starts to relate to his iceberg. And he says the mind is like an iceberg, it floats with 1/7 um, of its bulk above the water, and the rest is all subconscious. And he says you have like three major parts that are in conflict in your brain. In your brain, you have the ID, the superego, and the ego, and they're all basically struggling for control, basically. And so you have a lot of really interesting ideas that Freud comes up with about morals and ethics through his principles, because he talks about what is um, good and what is bad, kind of. So, like, as far as pleasure principles, you have like, having sex, any number of things, illicits. The pleasure principle really relates to just about anything uh, that makes humans pleasure, the individual is pleasured. So that could be anything. It could be being lazy on a Sunday, right? And so the pleasure principle is what we want to do, and the reality principle is what we have to do. So the our morals and ethics should come from the reality principle, whereas our neuroses are our failures to fall in line with our morals and ethics. Freud also talks about the Oedipus complex, which is really interesting because he basically says that from birth, all we're trying to do is uh, become the center of desire for our parent, and we loathe the other one. So for male, we love our mother, and we want to kill our father and take his place, basically. Um, and so that goes along with one of the pleasure principle and neuroses that we have, and that's not really socially acceptable in any case. So that's where morals and ethics come into this, because we don't really have the social acceptance to do that. It's not socially accepted. So we need to decipher what's right and wrong. And so our morals come down to more than just conscious, but subconscious. And that's what I get from reading Freud. You also, Freud in his psychoanalysis delves into stuff like wish fulfillments and dreams and parapraxies or Freudian slips. And so all of that is the subconscious, and that relates on what you're actually thinking um, deep down in your brain. And so your morals and ethics are actually coming from your subconscious rather than your conscious. What you're thinking is good, but your morals and ethics need to come from your subconscious. And that goes back to one of the previous quotes I've said where you're wrong with the laws when you've committed an action, but you're wrong morally when you thought about doing something immoral. So that's where it comes down to. Morals and ethics need to be a subconscious entity, and they are individualistic. And so morals shouldn't be based on the reality principle. Morals should be based on the individual pleasure principle and what the individual sees as acceptable to delve into as far as the pleasure principle. And the repression of the pleasure principle leads to a lot of bad things. But it does also lead to a lot of good things because it does prevent a lot of things from happening. So that's what I talked about. In the past couple episodes, I've talked about Kingdom of Futures, action, reaction, perspective, humility and virtue, religion, and a little bit more about Freud. Kingdom of Futures this week was all about different pathways and choosing the right pathway based on the outcomes rather than the situation at hand. And that's where morals and ethics should come from. And morals and ethics should be an individual endeavor rather than a societal endeavor. The next 5 episodes are going to be, my next and final 5 episodes are going to be about community versus self. I'm going to discuss a little bit more about Rousseau. I really haven't touched on much of his philosophy, but there's a lot that really comes down to community and self, because there really is a contrast between the two. So I'll get into that later. If you guys like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this. Follow me on Twitter, Google+, and I'll see you guys next time. Alright, bye.